Okay, welcome everyone. In this video, I will be attempting an essay task 2, and this question comes from Cambridge IELTS book number 8, test number 1. Yeah. Now, since this is an essay, I will put myself into the shoes of an IELTS candidate who's taking the exam. I'll go through the stages of generating different ideas related to the topic and then planning a structure of the essay. After that, I will write it down and finally, go through a proofreading stage so that I can smoothen off all the grammatical and stylistic inaccuracies if there are any. Also the punctuation for that matter. Yeah. So I request you to shadow me, look at how I'm going about the task, planning the structure and the ideas before I actually start writing everything. I would recommend at least about 8 to 10 minutes of planning before the actual writing stage starts. So without further delay, let's get right into the task. So let's dive right into the task and let's first give it a read. Some people think that parents should teach children how to be good members of society. Others, however, believe that school is the best place to learn this. Discuss both these views and give your own opinion. Now, this is one side of the argument. Some people think parents are the best people to teach their children how to be good members of the society. Good members of the society, members who are responsible, who follow the rules and regulations, who do not, create nuisance or disturbance to the well-being of the society. So that's what we are talking about. So some feel parents are the best people. Others, however, have a different opinion, and this is the next side of the argument. And this is a classic discuss both views kind of a question. In any kind of a discussion question, you will always find two sides of the argument right in the question itself. So one side says, ideally, parents should be responsible to teach their children how to be responsible members of a society or contribute to the community and things like that. Others, however, feel school is the best place to learn this. So school, we are talking about staff, members of the school. It includes teachers. It also includes some other things or elements which goes on in the school, and this may include your project work, field work and things like that. Yeah. And what is a task? Now, this is very important. The task is, we first have to discuss both the views from a neutral perspective. So we do not choose the side first. First, we discuss one side about parents being the ideal for this particular job. Then we discuss the other view, which is the school or the teachers or the staff members are the best people to teach the children how to go about this. Yeah. So first, we've got to discuss both the views, and finally, when we try to end it, we have to take a side. And in any kind of an opinion essay, you always have three options to choose from. Two of those are extremes. So you either completely agree with something or you completely disagree with that particular, idea or proposition. And the third one is kind of a neutral. So partially agree or partially disagree is what the third choice would normally be. Yeah. So now, how do I go about planning for such an essay? So we have to do two things. First, discuss one side, then discuss the other side and both of these arguments have to be discussed and justified from a neutral perspective without really being biased, taking a side. And finally, when I conclude, I want to take a side. So you have to basically choose or pick a side. Now, let's go about planning this particular essay. And how do I do it? First of all, I always try to rephrase the question in my own words. Yeah? In very simplified manner, in very uncomplicated manner. This is not the stage where you think of complex expressions and vocabulary and things like that. This is just to help you gain a deeper understanding of what the question is asking of you. Yeah. So what's the topic? The topic is, who should teach children, what they need to teach children to be good members of a So when we are talking about society, it includes community, it includes a group among or the neighborhood where you stay. Yeah. So that's what we are talking about. And when we say good members, we are talking about we have certain responsibility towards society to follow the rules, regulations, to contribute our time, our efforts towards that, community or a group of people, neighborhood where we stay. So that's what we are talking about when we say good members of the society. So who should teach children to become good members of society? There are two options here. Either it can be teachers and other members at school. So this is one. What's the next one? It's the parents. So these are the two options that we are given in the question itself. So one side says parents are ideal members for this job. The other says school or teachers and other members at school are best for this particular, to develop this particular skill set in children. So that's what we are talking about. So naturally, we would go through some good points in favor of teachers and some ideal points in favor of parents, and to justify why either or why both of these categories of people could be best for this job. And what's the job? To teach them to become responsible members of a society, of being empathetic towards the needs or pressing issues or challenges which the society is tackling at the present. Yeah. So basically being a very diligent, honest and a responsible member of the society. That's what we are talking about. How could children be taught best at school about this particular skill, or taught about this topic of being responsible members of a society? So the very first thing which comes to mind is teachers kind of have a natural authority over the students. So let's put this down. So natural authority over students, and that's one point. What could be the other point? Now, I think it's better to add this particular topic in the school syllabus. It would be a good idea. So let's put this down. Social responsibility added to school syllabus or curriculum. Yeah, and which are the subjects where this could be included? I think the natural ones are maybe social science, because we are talking about society. So you could include this in social science subjects, if not others. So that's what coming naturally to my mind as I plan right now. What else? Now this could give them a theoretical knowledge of, how it's important to contribute to society, how it's important to look for solutions and tackle some issues or challenges that the society is facing. How about some practical field work or project work? Even that could be included in a school syllabus and evaluated, or could be a part of the assessment. Yeah. So let's put that down. I think we could. So we could include project work or including project work, field work, or community service. And this could become a part of assessment. So they would, get grades or marks for this, which would naturally develop or make them sensitized towards the needs of the society and things like that. How do we support all this? So how do we support the fact that school is going to be a good, so we need some statistic or some survey result or some example from real life for that matter. So let's talk about that. So we could just talk about an example for real life, maybe an interview of a philanthropist. So philanthropists are people who contribute or help mitigate the issues or problems which are facing the society. It could be with money, it could be with the effort or the time which they put in towards these issues, but it could be interview of a philanthropist saying that a school project inspired that person. This would naturally support the argument that school project, since school project was an inspirational point in that philanthropist life, we could add that example to support what we are talking about, or what our central idea of that paragraph is going to be, that school is an ideal place to develop an empathy towards social needs, social problems and things like that. So I think this is a good enough starting point for us. So this is talking everything about the schools. Yeah. Let's also talk about what we would similar points brainstorming about parents. So this can become our body paragraph number 1. How teachers are good candidates to teach children about social responsibility. That's this paragraph. And let's talk about parents now. So how come parents are going to be an ideal members there? So this is about school, and let's do a similar thing about parents. So I think parents, what can be the points? Parents, children spend most of the time at home. So this could be a natural starting point for this particular paragraph. Yeah? Let's say children spend most of the time at home with parents. So they become natural teachers. Even though it's not a school environment, they do gain a lot of incidental knowledge, if not theoretical and project knowledge, by observing their parents. So that's a very important point out there. Yeah. So incidental knowledge is something that I don't consciously study about, but maybe I observe, I watch some people do some activities and it appeals to me, and I try to develop that in my own life. So that's incidental knowledge. Knowledge which is not consciously taught, but it just develops over time. It can be by observation, it can be by exposure, or by immersing yourself in that particular environment. It could be a lot of factors. Yeah. So incidental knowledge, and this could be by observing parents at home. Very important. So when you observe what your parents do, you try to imitate that. So we always try to grasp the habits that they do. So this could be, we grasp their habits. So we try to absorb what is going on before our eyes, what our parents are doing as far as doing social good or contributing or being effective members of community is concerned, and we try to have that knowledge into our own life. Maybe not currently, but we may use that to shape some of our future decisions, and that's exactly what we are talking about. What could be next pressing point about parents? Yeah. So since we talked about teachers having a natural authority over students, because students go to school to basically develop their knowledge or gain skills in different subjects, so they have a natural authority, but we cannot discount the fact that parents are, number one influencers uh, uh, of some knowledge on their children. So children do not always depend on teachers. They always, almost, most of the time, look at their parents to shape some of their decisions. Yeah. So we can say that parents have a greater influencing ability over children, or a greater influence over children. Yeah. So that could be an important point in our set of ideas, very important as well. Yeah. So parents have a greater influencing ability over children. Yeah, that's a natural counterpoint to the paragraphs on teachers, and I think we have a nice plan getting developed, which is almost balanced on each side. Yeah. Now, since we have an example here talking about a philanthropist and how a school project inspired that person, we could also have something like that to support what makes parents the ideal candidates to transfer such knowledge to their children. So we could maybe, bring in some large organization which is quite popular globally, and talk about how volunteers working in those programs have had a family history. Yeah. So this could be a nice supporting point which could boost or add weight to the paragraph. Yeah. So let's talk about maybe a UNICEF study. Since UNICEF is a social organization, it works in a lot of social service programs. Yeah. So let's talk about a UNICEF study and what the study found. The study found that, maybe 80% of volunteers have had a similar family history. So similar family history means some of their family members have had the experience of working with the community or to eradicate some social problems and things like that. And since this is coming from UNICEF, it could add a lot of weight, and it's also known globally. So we don't have to naturally think about this. Yeah. So I think that's a good enough plan for us. Now we just have to think about what's our conclusion going to be. I think, it's as far as a brainstorming and idea generation is concerned. To me, I would always go with something which is a partial agreement or something which is neutral. So, a combination of both teachers and parents is an ideal mix for a child to gauge knowledge about being socially responsible or being empathetic towards society. So that's very important things that we are talking about. Yeah. So when I conclude, I would always have a mix. So my conclusion is going to be, it's always a mix of parents and school. Yeah. So parents, it could be like observation, and school, where they can, whatever they have observed at home, they could mostly practice during field works. Yeah. So practice during field works or project works and things like that. Yeah. So that's the ideal combination of parents and school that are better for the child. Yeah. So it's something in the middle. It's not an extreme opinion that teachers are better or parents are better. It is a nice combination of both that makes or breaks this particular skill in their children. Yeah. So let's go about. So now that we have a nice plan, yeah, let's think about some vocabulary in that. So first, socially responsible, empathetic. Yeah. social challenges, community work, social service, programs. It could be, so when we are talking about parents, we will have incidental knowledge, observation, observation of their parents' behaviors towards society. So these are all nice words and phrases that we can use in our essay. Yeah. So these are the vocabulary that we can use, and it's not that this is the final list of vocabulary. Maybe when we are going through the writing stage, our brain can come up with a lot of words or phrases or expressions when we are in the flow. Yeah, so this is a starting point. We may think about something else as well. So that's a nice point right there. Now let's head right into the writing stage. Yeah? So this is a nice plan that we have developed, and just to label everything so that we know what's going on, let me use a different colored pen right there. Yeah, so let's say that this is whatever is cool will be body 1. So this is going to be first body paragraph. This is going to be body paragraph number 2, and conclusion, we already know that we are going to have a conclusion which is mixed conclusion. It's not a one-sided conclusion as such. And when we are talking about introduction, we'll have to frame an introduction which is balanced, because this is discuss and give your opinion. So we'll have to have 2 point of views right in the introduction itself, plus a paraphrase statement which introduces the topic of the essay. So that's what the introduction is all about. Yeah. So let's go through the process of preparing a nice introduction so that we start on the right foot. Yeah. And always think about an introduction as something which will set the tone for your entire essay. It shouldn't be informal, because this is semi-academic writing. It should have passive formal structures of sentences, yeah, to prove that you know what's the difference between an academic tone and a personal conversational tone. So that's very important. So let's think of a very generic statement to introduce the topic. Most people would agree that children need to be taught about the importance of growing up as socially responsible adults. I think that's a nice start. Let's go with that. So most people would agree that children need to be taught about the importance of growing up as socially responsible adults. So this is a nice neutral statement. The purpose is just to set the tone, to get the reader drawn in about what the topic of this particular essay is. A nice one, a nice paraphrasing. So here, good members of society. Here we have socially responsible adults, growing up as. So this is a nice paraphrase Yeah. Now it's important to introduce the two sides. So what are the two sides? One is parents are best suited for this purpose. The other side is no, the school, the teachers, the staff are the ideal members who should do this. Yeah. There is a difference of opinion, however, whether the parents should take the lead in doing so or the school teachers. Nice, yeah. So I think that's a good. There is a So there is a difference of opinion, however, about there is a difference of opinion, however, about whether the parents should take the lead in doing so or or it should be the school staff. Again, nice paraphrasing. Teachers paraphrased as school staff. School, you could also have written teachers, but I think school staff makes more sense. Yeah. And we could kind of end this introduction with a statement about what the essay will contain. So what's the essay all about? Yeah. And the essay is about examining both points of view and then picking an opinion. So just say in this essay, I will examine both point of views and then state my opinion. Yeah. So that's what we are asked to do. An alternative method is to straight away give your point of view in the introduction itself. But I don't recommend that, because first we have to discuss both the views and then give our opinion. That would be a natural progression rather than straight off starting by giving your opinion in the introduction itself. So that's a nice introduction to start with. Yeah. Now, as we know, the first body is going to be about the importance of teachers or other school staff in developing this skill of being good members of society. So let's start this with, and the paragraph is going to be about the importance of teachers. Yeah. So that's the one side of the argument, why teachers or at school is the best place for the teachers to learn about this skill. Yeah. So let's go and natural authority over students. So we need a strong topic sentence for body paragraph number 1, and this is going to be the second paragraph. Yeah. So I think we could start with the argument in favor of teaching children at school is based around the idea that they learn best at school. Teachers have natural authority. It could be included in the project work. It could be included as a part of their assessment and things like that. So this is something we could start our body paragraphs with. So the argument in favor of teaching children at school is based around the idea that children learn best at school. I think it's a nice, strong body paragraph. The argument in favor of teaching children at school is based around the idea that They, so they is a nice linking device. They refers to children. They learn best at school. Now we have to explain why this is true. So we have to justify why do they learn best at school. And I think the first point makes sense. So talk about natural authority over students. We could add another linking device saying this is because teachers have a natural authority over their students who are used to learn from them. So students are always used to learn from teachers because that's exactly what happens in school, right? So this is because teachers and other school administrators have a natural authority over them. Now let's try to extend this particular thing. How do we extend it? I think social responsibility could be added in the school syllabus or the school curriculum, especially in social science subjects. So additionally, the need to be empathetic towards the pressing needs of society can be included in the school syllabus, particularly in subjects related to social science, because social science is the best fit. It's nice. So good development, good topic sentence. Why do they learn best at school? Because teachers have natural authority, and it could be included in the school subject. So let's see what the next point is. Project work, field work, community service. So this is more or less related to adding it in the curriculum, but it's just a change of focus. So here it's all about theory, curriculum, and here it's mostly going to be about how to bring everything that we learn into practice. So that's the important point of focus in community service here. And it could also be an important part of assessment. Yeah? So we could add another passive structure. We've already used additionally, so no need to use things like furthermore, because we could use something like it also helps that this knowledge should be reinforced. It also helps that this knowledge could be reinforced by planning social service field trips, social service field trips where children become first hand witness to the challenges that people face. Yeah? So it's a very nice point and nice structure. Also adds variation. Remember, grammar, range and accuracy. So you have to give them a range of grammar, and that range has to be within the academic set of writing. Yeah. So we could use a lot of passive formal structures. We could use a lot of neutral language. We could use a lot of words that are positive or neutral, and uh, forget or don't include something which has a negative connotation and things like that. So very important. So we have this, we have this, we have included this as well. Now try to end the paragraph with an example or the interview of a philanthropist. Yeah? So we could start, instead of saying for example, we could just say as a case in point. That's a nice way to talk about an example or something from real life. As a case in point, a recent interview of an Indian businessman who works towards abolishment of. So I think who works towards is a subordinate clause. So there should be a comma which separates the subordinate clause and the main clause. Who works towards abolishment of child labor reveal that a school project inspired him to take up this noble deed. So again, a nice, uh, rich, advanced use of vocabulary. Noble deed. It's something which is commonly used when we talk about social service, community programs, social work, and things like that. So I think that wraps up our first body paragraph, which is in favor of school and teachers. Who are good candidates to teach children about being responsible members of the society or the community or the neighborhood. Now we have to contradict. So here there will be a little contrast, because we know that this paragraph is about parents. So why they are better compared to the teachers as far as this particular skill, transferring this skill. So we'll have to obviously contradict and show a transition between two contrasting paragraphs. One is talking about teachers and school. The other is going to talk about parents. Yeah. So a good natural contrasting linker is on the other hand. On the other hand, there are, so how many reasons do we have? 1, 2, 3, and I think influencing ability. So I think this and this can be linked as one point. I think both are talking about the same most of the time and observing their parents. This is a little different. Yeah, so I think there are two main points. So on the other hand, there are two main points, or let's change our mind. There are two main reasons why people think parents should be responsible for Which training are we talking about? Of training the children to become good members of the society. Another linking word. So it adds coherence and cohesion. So how do we transition between the paragraphs and how do we link ideas within the same paragraph? Very important. So what's the first reason? Is they spend most of the time at home. So the principal, PAL, not PLE, the principal reason I think we've already used reason, so let's change our mind again. The first is that there are two main reasons. Okay, let's go with a simpler one. The first is that, so the first is that children spend most of their time at home, which offers them opportunity develop incidental knowledge by observing their parents, so that we are talking about both the parents, not a single parent. The parents is socially I think this would not fit. By observing their parents' behavior. Let's only talk about behavior. Yeah, so it's a nice long sentence. It's always nice to have a mix of simple sentences or short sentences when the paragraph starts with a significantly longer complex sentence. Now let's support this with an example, if you will. If, for example, I think if is already there in the first clause. So if, that's a clause. If, for example, parents doubles. If parents regularly celebrate special occasions with privileged, underprivileged sections, let's use the word community because it's not used. Children are more likely to follow suit. That's a nice phrase. Follow suit means to imitate something. Follow suit when they grow up. So when they become adults and if they have observed their parents normally celebrating such special occasions with underprivileged sections who are not quite well to do or who need help in order to sustain themselves, children are more likely to follow suit when they grow up. So that's an example which directly relates to our point of incidental learning at home. And it's a very nice supporting point as well. What's the next point? So we have this down, most of the time incidental knowledge. What about influencing ability over children? So parents have more influencing ability over children. A very nice point. The other very practical point is that parents have stronger is a more appropriate collocation. So stronger, parents have a stronger influence on children than the staff at school. So this is, let's say, a recent study published by UNICEF found that over 80% of social service volunteers have had a family history of community involvement. So this is another example which directly relates and directly strengthens our argument. So we have, so that's basically our body 2 and a nice transition between the body paragraph as well. So this is our body 1, which is talking about teachers and their justification on why they form ideal candidates to teach children. And this is a contrasting view, the other side of the argument, diametrically opposite argument on why parents have a stronger influence on children, or why they should be responsible for this training. So now we have a nice introduction. We have a good body paragraph 1 talking about school. We have body paragraph 2, which is talking about parents and why they are better to teach children to become good community members, social members, things like that. So now our job is to conclude, but conclusion has to again be very sharp. So what we decided is we are going to conclude and we are going to go with a mixed neutral conclusion. My own view is that the best solution for children to learn about being. So learn about being something, being socially empathetic adults. So this is another paraphrase. It's exhibiting your depth of vocabulary. Is both at home and at school. This way, they would learn both about the theory and practice. So that's our point. They would learn both by observing their parents. So first, they would learn by observing their parents, and then by practicing the same during school fieldwork. My own view is that the best solution for children to learn about being socially empathetic adults is both at home and at school. This way, they would learn both by observing their parents and then by practicing the same during school fieldwork. So that's a very neutral point of view, talking about how the combination of both parents as well as school members, teachers, would develop this sense of community involvement, of being responsible members of society. So that's my attempt. Let's check whether we have discussed both views. Absolutely we have. So the first view is in body paragraph number 1. The next view is, with a contrasting marker, a body paragraph number 2. And finally, we have something which is a conclusion. So it basically wraps up. It takes the middle line, talking about how combining school and parents is the best way forward for children to develop such a knowledge. Let's just do a final check and see whether there are any grammatical inaccuracies or words that can be changed and things like that. Most people would agree that children need to be taught. Let me just zoom out a bit so that you can look at how each body is transitioning over time. Most people would agree that children need to be taught about the importance of growing up as socially responsible adults. There is a difference of opinion, however, about whether the parents should take the lead in doing so or it should be the school staff. In this essay, I will examine both points of view and then state my opinion. So that's a nice introduction, no errors there. The argument in favor of teaching children at school is based around the idea that they learn best at school. Nice topic sentence. This is because teachers and other school administrators have a natural authority over them. Additionally, the need to be empathetic towards the present needs of the society can be included in the school syllabus, particularly in subjects related to social science. It also helps that this knowledge could be reinforced by planning social service field trips where children become first-hand. So let me have a clear-cut line there. Where children become first-hand witness to the challenges that people face. As a case in point, a recent interview of an Indian businessman who works towards abolishment of child labor revealed that a school project inspired him to take up this noble deed. Good. Now there's a transition between the first body and the second. On the other hand, there are two main reasons why people think parents should be responsible for this training. The first is that children spend most of their time at home, which offers them opportunities to develop incidental knowledge by observing their parents' behavior. So this is very important. By observing their parents' behavior. If, for example, parents regularly celebrate special occasions with the underprivileged sections of the community, children are more likely to follow suit when they grow up. The other very practical point, so this is the second point, that's the first point. The other very practical point is that parents have a stronger influence on children than the staff at school. A recent study published by UNICEF found that over 80% of social service volunteers have had a family history of community involvement. So we have discussed the 2 point of views. Now it's the time to take a stance. It can be a neutral stance, which we have done here. My own view is that the best solution for children to learn about being socially empathetic adults is both at home and at school. This way, they would learn both by observing their parents and then by practicing the same during school fieldwork. So let me just, again sum up this. So as we can see, the task was to discuss both the views. So discuss one view. So this is the one view, and then discuss the next view. So one view is about teachers are better to teach children about social responsibility. The other view is parents are better candidates to do so. And then we have to give our opinion. If this wasn't there in the question and it was only discussed both views, we wouldn't have taken the side in the conclusion. The conclusion would have still been a neutral statement without giving any particular opinion with that. So that's my plan of the essay. So I have brainstormed different ideas on each side of the argument. Conclusion is going to be a mixed one. These are some set of advanced vocabulary, socially responsible, empathetic, challenges, community work, social service programs, abolishment of child labor, things like that. So that's my plan, and that's my full-fledged essay. I'll just try to convert this into a typed text and maybe have the link of this in the description if possible. If not, you'll have to bear with the video itself. But I hope that this process of going through the brainstorming, generating ideas, then selecting the structure, writing down, and finally proofreading really helped you gain an insight into writing task 2 of the IELTS exam. And writing task 2 is same for both general as well as academic modules. So either one of the modules you're planning to take, you can follow the similar structure. But my recommendation, do give 8 to 10 minutes just to come up with a plan like so that you're thorough with what you're going to write about. And all you need to think about grammar and a variety of sentence structures and a little bit of vocabulary when you move on to the writing task. And also about 3 to 4 minutes to proofread each and every sentence. If there are any grammatical errors or punctuation is missing, spelling errors and things like that. So with that, thanks a lot for joining with me. Thanks a lot for joining me in this particular video. I positively hope that this may have helped you, and please practice a lot because it is required. Until we meet next time, good luck, happy learning, take care, goodbye.